Welcome in, everybody. It is Midnight Madness. I'm your host, Billy Muzio, and we're going to be running through the notable injuries for the Sunday slate, and then I'll be answering all of your start-sit questions. I see a bunch of questions in the chat already. I'm going to run through a few of the games. I'm going to do a little different tonight. So normally I go by position. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go by a game and by slate. And then in between some of the slates and games, I'll go ahead and answer some of those start-sit questions that are in the chat already. So let's kick it off with the Broncos and Panthers. Notable injuries in this game. Latavius Murray, his wrist, he's cleared to play, good to go. We all know Chase Edmonds, his ankle went to the IR, which paves the way for a large share of touches for Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray comes in as a back-end RB2 for me in my rankings here in Week 12, and a pretty good matchup here versus the Panthers. So feel free to fire up Latavius Murray in those lineups this week. Jerry Jeudy, of course, is out with the ankle injury. KJ Hamler is out with a hamstring injury. And that is the notable injuries on the Broncos for the offensive side of the ball for fantasy purposes. For the Panthers, PJ Walker is doubtful. Terrace Marshall, shoulder is questionable. We expect him to play. Ian Thomas, illness is questionable. We're expecting him to play. And then the biggest news of the Panthers this week is that PJ Walker, doubtfield, and Baker Mayfield being benched, that the Panthers are expected to start Sam Darnold. Now, this is technically, in my opinion, an upgrade for DJ Moore in this offense, as they had a connection last year early in the season. So I do expect to see a little uptick in fantasy points for DJ Moore. And if you've watched the podcast this last week between Jody and I, and also on when I joined the Fantasy Pros team this week, I talked about DJ Moore, and technically he has the most snaps in the league for all wide receivers, period. So more than Cooper Kupp, more than Justin Jefferson. He's out here getting his cardio in, has the most snaps in the league for all wide receivers. Unfortunately, we don't get points for cardio, but this week we are expecting a little bit more with him and Sam Darnold. That being said, it is a very tough matchup against this Broncos secondary, so we do need to still temper expectations. Next slate we have are the Buccaneers versus the Browns. Leonard Fournette is out, which everyone has been seeing. Rachaad White, I'm sure, will be one of the main persons of our discussion tonight for start-sit questions. We saw a lot of it last night with Jody and I on the podcast, but with Fournette out, that moves Rachaad White into the RB2 category for me. I'm not as high as other analysts are because I do expect Giovanni Bernard to be also involved in this game. He cleared with his ankle for this week, and we do know that he has been a thorn in the side at times for when it's someone else's chance to get the bulk of the carries. At the wide receiver position, Russell Gage is still out with that hamstring injury. He's pretty much been out all year. And then notable offensive guard Luke Goedeke. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but their starting offensive guard is out with a foot injury, so that's something to keep an eye on too for DFS purposes if you're going to be going with Rachaad White. For the Browns, tight end David Njoku ankle is definitely in the game as well, and we have 1-2 offensive linemen that are cleared to play. We have Teller is going to be in, and Froholt's going to be in. His illness, he's expected to play as well. So good news for the Browns offensive line. Let's move on to the Ravens and the Jaguars. Lamar Jackson hip has cleared. Gus Edwards hamstring is questionable but expected to play. Demarcus Robinson hip is questionable. I do expect him to play as well. Devin Duvernay hamstring is questionable. We will get more information on that hopefully soon. And Deshaun Jackson hamstring as well to be determined, but no one here is probably likely starting Deshaun Jackson, especially in a week where there's no buys. So Isaiah Likely, though, was ruled out today, so that's something to keep an eye on. And then for the Jaguars, healthy team. There's nobody here that is hurt or questionable for the Jaguars. So they will go into this matchup full health and full steam. Texans, the only one out is the defender Derek Stingley, hamstring, which is good news for Dolphins for the receiving core, for Tyreek Hill and for Waddle. And from the running back standpoint, Raheem Mostert knee is doubtful. And not expected to play. I think he's actually ruled out today. But we have a huge matchup for Wilson this week because the Browns excuse me, Texans are the the last team in the NFL giving up the most points, 5.1 yards per carry against the running back position. Big week for Wilson. He's inside my top 8, inside my running back rankings. I expect a monster game out of him. I'm much higher on him than a lot of analysts, but he has not finished outside RB10 since joining the Dolphins, and that has been with Mostert on the field. So with no Mostert, I fully expect him to have a smash matchup here against the Texans. Next matchup we have is Bears and Jets. Justin Fields is not likely to play. That was the Shefty bomb that came out here just a little bit ago. So Justin Fields not expected to play. They said is a long shot, but he's not expected to make it out there. So Trevor Siemian time it is. And the Jets are rolling with Mike White at quarterback because they benched Wilson, and then wide receiver Corey Davis, his knee, he was cleared to play, which is good news for this offense. And then offensive tackle DeJuan Brown is questionable to play as well. Moving on to the Bengals and the Titans, Joe Mixon concussion is ruled out. Everyone has been asking about Samaje Perine. I'm going to say that you probably have better options this week as the Titans are extremely difficult against the run, and Perine is not the back that Joe Mixon is. That being said, Jamar Chase did not get activated in time for this game as well, so his hip, he's still out this week. So that is going to clear up more targets for the likes of Samaje Perine, as well as the other positions from the wide receivers for T. Higgins and for Boyd as well. Boyd was one of the start sits. He's my one of my sits inside the start sit article for fantasy. For the fantasy article that I posted out a couple days ago, I would say that that's going to be negated now with no Jamar Chase. I was expecting him to play, actually. I thought it was going to be a limited capacity, but we're not going to see him here this week. So that's it for the Bengals running back. Hassan Haskins is questionable with a hip injury, and that's it on the offensive side of the ball. Outside of the center, Ben Jones with a concussion, he's questionable, but expected to play here for the Titans. Let's take a break from some of this. There's a ton of start sit questions, so I'm going to hop into some of the questions right now, and then I'll bounce back on over. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first question we have of the night here from Red Rizzle. Half point PPR, Palmer or Boyd? I go Palmer here. Is one of the highest over-unders of the week. I do expect Keenan Allen to be heavily involved, but I do think he will be on some sort of a snap count. He said last week he was supposed to be on a snap count, but forced into a larger role and Mike Williams left. I don't think they're going to want to run him in there 100% of snaps yet, so Palmer is going to be the primary receiver, in my opinion, on this offense, and then Keenan Allen will still be involved. But Boyd has just been underperforming. Quite frankly, he just has not been the receiver that we thought that he was going to be in the absence of Jamar Chase. Honestly, there was such a big opportunity for him to succeed, and he's kind of just squandered that opportunity. Inside of the full-time fantasy article, like I said, I mentioned earlier, he was one of the sit-ems. I talk about what he has done in the absence of Jamar Chase, or lack thereof, I should say, of what he has done. He's been wide receiver 56 during that time he's been out. Last week, I should say, 2 catches on 7 targets for 42 yards last week. And he's only seen a 17% target share. And these are not numbers that you expect out of someone that has, good matchups, and you're expecting to be taking on a larger role with Jamar Chase out. So I don't have a lot of confidence in Boyd. I'm leaning Palmer on this one. DK Cash advice: Devontae Adams, Njoku, or D-Hop, Waddle, or T. Higgins and Everett. I'm going to go Hop and Waddle here. I like the wide receiver combo. With the news of Stingley being out again this week, that's going to clear up some easier routes for the receivers on the offensive side of the ball for the Dolphins. Also, we just got news tonight that Dortch is not going to be playing either for Arizona, so that leaves them with just Hopkins and just Marquise Brown, who's coming off injury as well. So I expect a pretty big game for DeAndre Hopkins, probably going to be really heavily involved. I'm actually expecting a touchdown this game, so D-Hop and Waddle for me pretty easily. I like the Adams and Njoku stack second, but I like Waddle and D-Hop first and foremost. Garbage dive at tight end, PPR, Otten, Gesicki, Taysom, or Harrison Bryant. I'm going to go Jaceki here. Don't trust Otten fully in this matchup. Taysom is just boom and bust, and he's been kind of utilized less and less and less, especially with Juwan Johnson with 3 straight scores. On top of it, the Niners are tough against the run. The Niners are also tough against the tight end position. So Taysom's probably the third option this week for me in this group. Harrison Bryant, don't trust with Njoku back, so pretty easily for me Jaceki in this group. Good evening, Colt. Trade Kelsey, Pickens, and Wilson, and get Kittle and Jefferson in full PPR. So hold up. Kelsey, Pickens, and Wilson. Can you clarify which Wilson, if that's Jeff Wilson Jr. or if that's Wilson for the Jets? I'll come back to that once you clarify. Oh, there it is right there. Jeff Wilson. No, I don't make that trade. As much as I love Justin Jefferson, you're giving up a, RB2 and the number 1 tight end in the league for the number 1 wide receiver. Kittle's been kind of hit and miss. I love Kittle. I'm a Niner fan, but let's face it, he's not Kelsey in terms of consistency. I like Wilson. I don't like to really give up a running back and not receive one back in return as well. So I'm going to say Kelsey and Wilson side. Pickens is kind of just the throw-in. I think I'd rather have Kelsey and Wilson than Kittle and Jefferson. It also depends on the makeup of your team. I don't know how many receivers you're starting. I don't know how many running backs you're starting. If you're only starting one running back and you have like a Christian McCaffrey or you have another, Austin Eckler or something, then sure, you can make that trade. But if you're starting 2 running backs, you have a flex spot, running back's a little bit more of a commodity, and you want to make sure that you retain those running backs, especially those that are performing well, and you're heading into the playoffs here, you're going to need those running backs. I guarantee it. And Kelsey, as we know, is the most consistent tight end in football. It's hard to give that up and that positional advantage on a weekly basis. So as good as Jefferson is, and as much as I love him, he's the number 1 wide receiver in football. I said at the beginning of the year, I angered a lot of people when I said that Justin Wilson was that Jefferson was in a separate tier of his own, and then it was Diggs and Kupp. That angered a lot of people, but Jefferson is the best receiver in football. Everyone sees it now this year, but Kelsey is that as well as the tight end. And so I'm going to take the positional advantage with Kelsey, and I'm going to maintain Wilson as well. Just coming back one more time with this question, A.J. Brown and Amari Cooper. I still like Amari Cooper this week. I think Jody was the one who wanted A.J. Brown. For me, it's matchup based against Jair Alexander. Amari Cooper probably playing behind against the Bucs. I think Amari Cooper has a better week. I have him back-to-back in my rankings, though. I think they're 9 and 10 in rankings, so I do have him pretty close. But A.J. Brown has a tougher matchup for me. I'm going to be fading him in this matchup versus Amari Cooper. So Amari Cooper for me. 1 point PPR, pick 1, Pacheco, Lockett, Pickens, or Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson also is going to be talked about here shortly. He's questionable. Pickens has been inconsistent. Lockett has a good matchup. I am always going to say start the full-time receiver over the part-time running back. Pacheco, I do expect to see a larger role this week as they're facing the Rams, and I do think that they get ahead. Bryce Perkins is going to be, the quarterback here for the Rams this week. It probably gets ugly in my opinion, and they start leaning on the run game a little bit more. So I see the enticing piece about Pacheco, but I like the over-under for the saddle game in Las Vegas. I like Lockett and what he's been doing with fantasy purposes, and Geno Smith's been really good, so I'm going to go Lockett here. Bench 1, full PPR. Debo, Palmer, Michael Carter. If Debo's active, you have to start him. He's good. He could score at any time. I play Palmer and Debo here. I love Michael Carter's matchup this week. I love Mike White actually for him, as I think it's going to be good for him in dump offs, and probably gets 6-7 catches, quite frankly. But Debo, if active, you have to play, and then Palmer, like I said earlier, he comes in as like wide receiver 24 for me this week. So I like Palmer a lot, and I like the matchup. So Palmer and Debo, it's close though. I like Michael Carter a lot. If you have a lean, I'm not opposed to it, but let's follow more news on Debo and Hammy. But as of right now, Debo and Palmer. Another one, pick 1, Foreman, White, Metcalf, Pittman. Pittman and Metcalf pretty easily for me. Foreman has not been that good, actually. And inside I'm going to just, actually, for those of you who haven't seen it, let me just take the article. I'm going to put it inside the chat right now. Just posted it inside the chat for the YouTube. So right on down there, go ahead and take a look. If you are, thinking about starting Foreman and you have these options, I would say don't do it. I'll just kind of read you my blurb right now that I have in there for Dante Foreman. We saw Foreman with his lowest snap count of the year since taking over the starting role for Christian McCaffrey since week 7. He's averaged 51.7% of snaps through those 4 or 5 weeks. Last week, week 11, he only saw 38.6% of snaps. Chuba Hubbard is now back and healthy. He saw 40.4. Blackshear still saw 19.3. And then they combined for a total, Blackshear and Hubbard combined for a total of 19.4% target share in week 11, while Foreman only saw 3.7. Foreman is very game script dependent, and if they get behind, it's clear they kind of abandon him and they go towards Hubbard and Blackshear. Denver's going to be pretty tough as well, formidable defense. I expect them to be ahead in this game. I do. That being said, it is possible they run the ball 20, 30 times, but I don't trust Foreman when you have options like Metcalf and Pittman. Pittman is cake matchup against the Steelers, who are giving up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Metcalf, again, going to be in a shootout here versus Vegas. I like that game. I'm going to go with the full-time wide receivers with Pittman and Metcalf. So, again, always remember the quote. Never start a part-time running back over a full-time wide receiver. Always follow the snaps. Good evening. Welcome to the podcast. Pick 2 full PPR. P. Ryan, Pickens, Edwards, or Demarcus Robinson. I think it's Pickens. Sorry. I think it's P. Ryan and Burks here for me. So as it's essentially in the order in which you listed them for me. So I think you listed them in the correct order. Yep, hit the like button, everybody, for me. Give it a thumbs up. I still see a lot more questions. I'm going to put the questions on pause here for about 5-6 minutes. I'm going to go through and continue on with the notable injury news. And then I'll come back and answer some more of the start-sit questions that are inside the chat. So let's go on to the Falcons and the Commanders game. So running back Caleb Huntley is questionable with an ankle injury. We all know Kyle Pitts went to the IR. In my opinion, that's going to open up a lot more routes and opportunities for London. So again, though they do run the ball a lot, and I don't expect them to pass the ball anymore. So take that with a grain of salt. But that being said, London should have the opportunity to succeed. But this definitely is going to benefit the running backs more than anybody. On the Commanders side of the ball, Carson Wentz finger to be determined, but it's still going to be the Heineke show. He's won the starting job, in my opinion, moving forward. J.D. McKissick, we all know, went to the IR with a neck injury. Logan Thomas, his ribs and illness, kind of had a wide range of questionable tags heading into this matchup, but the news tonight was that Logan Thomas will play tomorrow versus Atlanta, which is good news because he's starting to come on hot as well. And then other notable questionables are now, I should say, not listed out, but not expected to play is Chase Young, defensive end here for the Commanders, which is good news for the Falcons, but Chase Young is not expected to make his 2022 debut after that injury he had last year. That's it for the offensive side of the ball. And anything notable inside the Falcons and Commanders game. Let's move on to the Chargers and the Cardinals. Josh Kelly was activated, so I expect him to be the RB2 in this matchup. Mike Williams was ruled out. Gerald Everett was cleared and expected to play. He was not on the injury report. That's it for the Chargers side of the ball. From the Cardinals side, Kyler Murray is cleared, expected to play. Colt McCoy was also cleared. Is going to be the backup again. Now, this is where, like I said earlier, this is why I like DeAndre Hopkins so much. Rondell Moore was ruled out. Greg Dortch was ruled out tonight. Marquise Brown is off of injury. He just got activated. He's back, but we're not expecting, 85, 90% of snaps. We do expect him to be on the field a bit, but he's going to be forced into a role because they don't have Rondell Moore and Greg Dortch. So wheels up for DeAndre Hopkins, especially in this Chargers shootout. We all know Zach Ertz was finally placed on IR today. So we have a little bit more targets here for the other tight ends as well. I really like this game, especially in DFS. I think this could be a potential shootout. I really like the Las Vegas game in a DFS matchup. There's a lot of good DFS slates this week as well. So speaking of the Raiders, Josh Jacobs, calf questionable. Never a good sign to see a late addition to the injury report late in the week. They're saying now it's a true game time decision. That's never good with a running back. Calves are scary for running backs. I don't trust any of the running backs outside Jacobs here. If he's not able to play, I mean, just don't start a running back for Vegas, because Zamir White was healthy scratched in week 11. Amir Abdullah seen mild usage. They've included Brandon Bolden. We don't know what they're going to do here in the backfield. You can think you know what they're going to do. No one knows what they're going to do in terms of the running back usage if Josh Jacobs is ruled out. More than likely, we see a three-headed beast between Bolden, Amir Abdullah, and Zamir White. I'd probably say they're going to use Amir Abdullah on third downs, mix in Brandon Bolden on 1 and 2, mix in Zamir White on 1 and 2. You're not going to be able to trust any one of these guys, so don't do it. Look elsewhere. Seahawks side of the ball, Dwayne Eskridge, wide receiver, hand was ruled out, and then guard Damian Lewis, ankle was cleared to play as well. So good news for Seattle. Rams and Chiefs. This one could get ugly in my opinion. So Stafford, concussion, his neck is out. Allen Robinson, like I said earlier, questionable. Tyler Higbee, knee questionable. I'm leaning. I don't know for sure, but I don't think he plays, quite frankly. Then you have Brian Allen, center, is out. You have center Matt Skura, knee is questionable. You have offensive tackle. I don't know how to say this guy's last name. Siki. I can't pronounce it. But their offensive tackle is questionable. You have line issues, you have quarterback issues, you have receiving option issues, like between Higbee and Allen Robinson. The sneaky play here is Kyron Williams, in my opinion, especially in DFS. He's super cheap. And we've seen what he's been able to do the last couple of weeks. He's actually out-snapped Cam Akers. He's been the clear favorite in the passing game. He saw 8.1% of targets versus Akers 0% in week 10. Week 11, he saw 7.4% of targets, and Akers saw 2.7. That was with Darrell Henderson there as well during that time. There's no Darrell Henderson anymore. They cut him. He's now on Jacksonville. So Kyron Williams is a sneaky play, in my opinion, especially with an inexperienced quarterback who's going to be dumping the ball off, and they're going to be playing from behind. I like Kyron Williams this week, so heads up. Running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the Chiefs. Ankle went to IR. Juju Smith-Schuster cleared concussion protocol, and that's great news for the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney and his hamstring. Oh, Kadarius Toney. He got so many of us last week. Kadarius Toney hamstring is out. And then offensive guard Joe Thuney is questionable, expected to play for the Chiefs. So that's it for that game. I'll do one more game. I'm going to go through the questions that are inside the chat, and then I'll hop back over to the games again here shortly. So Saints, running back Alvin Kamara, illness cleared. Mark Ingram, knee is questionable. Jarvis Landry, ankle clear to play. And then you have offensive tackle James Hurts, whose concussion he cleared. Offensive guard Andrew Pete, triceps questionable. That's it for the offensive side of the ball for the Saints. For the 49ers, Debo questionable. I do expect him to play, though, maybe in a limited capacity. So if you have better options, I mean, it's harder to have better options than where you drafted Debo, probably in the 1-2 turn or the middle of round 2. But if for whatever reason you do have better options, it might be worthwhile sitting him, but it's very hard to sit Debo Samuel. I get it. That being said, I do expect him to be fairly limited if he is on the field. So I do expect him to be on the field, though. Packers and Eagles game, we have Aaron Jones, shin, he's cleared. Alan Lazard's shoulder was cleared. Randall Cobb, illness cleared. We have Romeo, who's out with the ankle injury still. Robert Tonyan, who was also ill, cleared. And then you have Bakhtiari, he is questionable. And then Jenkins cleared for the offensive tackle. Wide receiver for the Eagles, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith both cleared. A.J. Brown, of course, with the ankle, and then Devonta Smith with the knee. Let's take a quick break from the injuries and hop back into the start sits. We have ETN Science Many Things. Love the name. Pacheco, Sutton, or Palmer at the flex. I'm going to go Palmer. Again, I like Sutton and Denver. I mean, if Denver was just anything like 75% of what we expected them to be at the beginning of the year, this would be an easy call. It would be Sutton, but they just have not been good on offense, and we all know that. You don't need me to tell you that. So, again, Now you break down to, for me, Palmer or Pacheco. Pacheco, I do expect to have a little bit more snaps as they get ahead in this game versus the Rams. But that being said, it is, he's not playing 70% of snaps. Palmer will be. I want the full-time wide receiver over the part-time running back. I'm going to be playing Palmer in this matchup. Next question I have is, which side sits out? Which one sits out? Jacobs, Etienne, Kamara, Connor, Keenan Allen. I'm sitting Jacobs pretty easily in this group. Had he not popped up with that calf injury late in the week, he'd be in. But you have fantastic options here, even with Keenan Allen coming back off of the hamstring injury. He made it through last week without re-aggravating it. This week we expect to see a little bit more snaps. I think he saw 67% of snaps last week. We expect him to see a little bit more, probably in that 75 to 80% this week, if not higher, because you have no Mike Williams. So Kamara, Connor, Etienne, and Keenan Allen are all in. Josh Jacobs sits because of the calf injury. Jelly of the month, welcome to the podcast. I still think Jeff Wilson, Aaron Jones, and PPR over Chubb and Rachaad White. Yes, yeah, I'm going to slight lean Aaron Jones over Chubb. I have him back-to-back in rankings. I think it's like 12 and 13 overall. And then Jeff Wilson I have as my running back 8 this week. Smash matchup I talked about earlier. Rachaad White I'm a little bit lower on than the average analyst just because I think Gio's going to be involved a little bit. I don't think they're going to give 100% to Rachaad White. And still Tom Brady is still going to throw the ball. So Aaron Jones plays Philly. Philly defense is actually exploitable on the ground. We saw what Dameon Pierce was able to do to them a couple weeks ago. Jeff Wilson in a cake matchup. So Jeff Wilson, Aaron Jones for me. Chase out Paris Campbell or Hollywood. Hollywood 100% here for me. Love Paris Campbell this week, though, especially as a flex option. Again, inside of the article I posted in the chat right down below, go ahead and read it. Paris Campbell was one of my stardoms this week, facing off against the Steelers, who are giving up 42.68 fantasy points to the wide receiver position per week. It ranks dead last in the NFL. They've given up over 2,000 yards and 14 touchdowns in the season so far. Campbell's been, very active in the route tree. He's run 86.66% of routes the last 3 weeks. And he gets, Arthur Millette this week, who's 65th ranked cornerback of the season. So love the matchup. Love the involvement of the opportunity. That being said, Hollywood, when healthy, he's healthy now. When active, he's active now. He was like wide receiver 6 before he went out with his injury. Now, that was before DeAndre Hopkins was there. DeAndre Hopkins is back, but there's no Rondale Moore now. There's no Zach Ertz. So there's no Greg Dortch this week. There's a lot of opportunity here for Hollywood to immediately step back into a significant role and be forced into a large role this week. Not going to be able to be eased into things, in my opinion. So Hollywood it is for me over Paris Campbell. Great job on the Fantasy Pros pod this week. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in to that. Half-point PPR. Would you start Pittman or Boyd? And Pirine or Pierce? Pretty easy for me. Pittman, I have inside my top 14, my wide receiver rankings. You can just pretty much copy everything I just said about Campbell and apply it here to Pittman. And Pittman, of course, is the alpha receiver, the X receiver inside of this offense, where Campbell is running out of the slot. So Pittman easily for me over Boyd, and then Pierce over Pirine for me. Just in my rankings, let me see exactly where I have him real quick. Pirine is going to be probably in that 27-ish range, 26-ish range. And then Dameon Pierce against Miami, I have him at running back 20 right now, probably ends up between 20 and 22. So a good 5 spots ahead of him right now. Pierce is facing off against Miami, and Miami, although what I think of Miami is top 10 against the run. That being said, you have new quarterback at helm. They're probably going to lean. They're probably going to lean on the running backs a little bit more this game. I would not be surprised to see 20-plus carries for Dameon Pierce against Miami as they try to keep the ball out of Tua and the offensive hand and try to kill that clock down. So for me, Dameon Pierce is going to be a pretty volume-dependent RB2, touchdown-dependent as well. But I could see 20 carries in the mix pretty easily for him in this matchup. So I lean Pierce over Pirine. Like I said, 5-spot difference in my rankings, and Pittman over Boyd pretty easily. Austin Russell says, hey, Billy, half PPR. Would you go Pacheco or Murray? Ooh, that's a good one. I've actually been doing this has been a start sit dilemma in my own leagues over at FFWC. I've been leaning Murray, and I'll get there in a second, but or Sutton or Hollywood. So I'm going to go with Hollywood over Sutton. Again, everything I just talked about Hollywood, so I don't need to repeat that. Murray has a pretty good matchup this week against the Panthers, and the Panthers are bottom 8 in the league versus the running backs position for fantasy purposes. They give up 24.97 fantasy points a game. They've already given up 9 rushing touchdowns, 4 receiving touchdowns. They also just cut Melvin Gordon. So we know that this role is going to be almost 100% Latavius Murray. They activated Azebo this week, so we will be mixed in, but I don't expect him to take on a large role. We probably see 20 to 25% snaps, so it's going to leave probably 60 to 65% snaps for Murray, in my opinion. Pacheco probably won't see that. Pacheco also isn't as involved in passing downs. That's Jerick McKinnon's job, where Murray will have that job as well. So I'm going to go with the full-time running back, which is Murray over Pacheco this week. Now, that all changes next week once we possibly have Boone back in the equation. So Murray this week over Pacheco, Hollywood over Sutton for me. Allen Robinson and Pacheco for DJ Moore. I'm assuming that's a trade question is what you're saying. Other running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Barkley, White. Oh, man, I don't know if I really like that. Robinson's been trash, but DJ Moore has been too. But DJ Moore gets better with Sam Darnold. Pacheco is still going to be a 15 to 17 touch guy. Running backs you have are White, Barkley, CMC. So really it's Barkley and CMC. White, of course, gets an uptick because Fournette's out for the time being. But when he's back, then all you have is Barkley and CMC. Wide receivers you have are CeeDee Lamb, Pittman, Godwin, Palmer, Rondale Moore. No, you don't need to make that trade. If you're receiving Pacheco and Robinson, go for it. But I would probably, with the running back core that you have, I'd rather keep Pacheco here. I think DJ Moore is the best player of the group. So this is kind of a rare scenario where I don't want the best player. But based upon your running back core, I want Pacheco here. Need 2 of these full PPR. Pickens, DPJ, Christian Watson. I'm not a Christian Watson fan, but as well as he has been playing, you can't sit him. You just can't. I mean, he's got 5 touchdowns in 2 games. It's just insane. And yes, they have a tough matchup. He's going to be facing off against Bradbury, and he's going to be facing off against Slay. But hell, he's good for a touchdown probably. So I'm going to say start Christian Watson in here, and then DPJ has been sneaky good. Like really sneaky good, like 30 wide receiver 31 to wide receiver 36, like every single week. So he's consistent and also has spike weeks as well. So I'm going to say Christian Watson and DPJ here for me. Plus the Colts are pretty tough against the wide receivers. Colts are actually the number 1 defense versus the wide receiver position in the NFL. They only allow 25 fantasy points a week to the position across the entire position. That's not just one receiver. That's wide receiver 1, 2, 3, and 4. So not a lot of points. The best actually secondary in fantasy, for fantasy purposes, I should say, against the wide receiver position. So we'll sit Pickens in this group. Next question is start 2 half-point PPR. So half-point changes things a little bit. Pittman, Olave, Sutton. Jesus Christ, you have good options here. Oh, man. That's a tough one. Half-point PPR, Mike Evans in for me because the touchdown upside. And then it breaks down to Olave or Pittman. I'm going to... Man, I love Olave. I really do. I think slight lean Pittman just because of the matchup versus the Steelers. Like I said earlier, they're worse in the league against the wide receiver position, giving up over 42 fantasy points a week to the wide receiver position. Olave, though, has just been, oh, man, he's so sexy. He's so good. He's going to be facing against my Niners. It's a lot tougher. The secondary is tougher than Pittman's matchup. The front's tougher. Could be behind, though. They could be throwing the ball a little bit more. I lean Pittman, but if you like Olave, go for it. If you want to completely gamble, you can throw in Watson, but I would prefer Evans over all of these easily, and then for me, it's Pittman or Olave. Probably Pittman. So go ahead and if you prefer Olave or Pittman, go for it. I'm not going to sit here and it's not worth debating, quite frankly. They're so close in my rankings, and it could go either way, but Pittman has the cake matchup. I'd probably go that way. Would you drop Likely and stash Foster or Josh Kelly? I have Eckler and Mark Andrews. If you're a Mark Andrews owner, it's probably smart to hold Likely. Um, Although you could easily drop him this week because he's out, and you could pick up Josh Kelly. So I'd probably do. I'd probably drop Likely and pick up Josh Kelly this week. If anything happens, you have your handcuff, and then if nothing happens, nobody's gonna be looking to pick up Likely with Andrews healthy. So yeah, go ahead and drop Likely for Josh Kelly. I always want the handcuff for running backs, especially as you get closer to playoff times and injuries happen. It can be a league altering move, quite frankly. So I would definitely pick up Josh Kelly. We're still starting Boyd over Treylon, right? Yeah, I'm going to go Boyd over Treylon now. I think I had it swapped before. I think they were both pretty close in my rankings, but Boyd, I haven't finalized my rankings yet. Boyd's going to move up pretty significantly now with Chase out, and with Mixon officially ruled out. Playing Kansas City DST versus the Rams, hold Philly defense or drop to stash Jameson Williams. Oh, I like Philly defense, but they have not been the difference maker that they were in the first half the season before the bye. Jameson Williams, yeah, you don't want to roster. Honestly, I'd probably just roll a Philly defense. Although Kansas City is higher in my rankings this week versus the Rams, I don't want to hold two defenses, but I also don't want to drop Philly defense in the situation. And you look at their matchup down the playoff stretch. So weeks 15, Philadelphia has the Bears. 16 is tough versus the Cowboys. But in week 17, they have the Saints. Those are some good fantasy matchups, especially versus the Saints, where the interception is definitely part of the equation. As nice as Kansas City is against this week against the Rams, I'd probably just drop Kansas City and pick up Jameson Williams for the stash and just hold on to Philly. I don't like holding two defenses, and the only time I'll do it is through a bye if I have a top two defense like I did with Philly or Dallas. There's very few defenses this year that I was doing that with. Philadelphia is one of them. Same thing with kickers, like Daniel Carlson and Tucker are like the only kickers that'll hold through buys. Everyone else will just drop and pick someone else up or pick them back up after the bye. So I would drop Kansas City and I would pick up Jameson Williams. You probably don't like to hear that because you're looking at the extra fantasy points, but I think that's the smart move for the long-term play. And your second question was, who is my comp for Jameson Williams? Man, he's got like Will Fuller speed, but just much better athlete. But he's pretty much a Will Fuller that can catch and play better, in my opinion. So think of like a hybrid between like a Will Fuller and you put me on the spot here. Just let's think better Will Fuller that can catch but has Will Fuller speed. That's a good comp, in my opinion. All right, we got a lot more questions in here. I'm going to hammer through the last couple matchups, the notable injuries, and then we'll finish off the start-sit questions for the night. Steelers and Colts matchup. Jaylen Warren was actually ruled out, so first time all year Najee Harris moved up my rankings, where I'm actually positive versus ECR. Every other matchup have been minus 3 to 6 on an average week. So Jaylen Warren out, though, that changes things. We saw Najee Harris with 92% of snaps last week. We expect to see that kind of usage again versus the Colts. Paris Campbell, he was ill, but he's cleared. He's in the game. Kylan Granson also was ill, questionable, expected to play. That's it for the offense side for the Colts. That was actually, I think, the last matchup. So I should have just done that one earlier. But so that's it for that. So now just start sit questions. Crazy to start Pacheco over David Montgomery. Yeah, I think that's crazy. David Montgomery is going to see like 80+% of snaps. He played 87% of snaps last week. There was only two running backs in the league that had more snap counts, and that was Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs. David Montgomery is going to be an every down player now without Khalil Herbert there. So there's no Fields either. So there's not going to be they're not going to be running the ball at the quarterback as much. Trevor Siemian's actually a pretty good quarterback. So I think that we're going to see a lot more David Montgomery. Expect to see 80+% of snaps again here this week versus the Jets. Need 3 running backs, PPR, Etienne, Walker, Kamara, Pacheco, White. Ooh, all good options. As you listed them, Etienne, Walker, Kamara. And that is pretty much how I have them ranked too. So ETN in my rankings right now is running back 10. Actually, Walker is running back 6. Might be 7, actually. I'm probably going to move Jeff Wilson up tomorrow morning. And then who was the other one? Let me see. Kamara, I'm lower on than consensus. So Kamara I have as like running back 17 against San Francisco. Pacheco and White I have in the 20s. So, yep, as you listed them. I got Chase for Boyd and Gabe Davis, half PPR, good trade. I don't know the makeup of your team, but I like getting Chase, especially if you're in the playoffs. Chase is going to come on strong down the finish line. So I like that a lot. I think Boyd has been inconsistent. Gabe Davis has been, boom or bust. He's the best. He's a good best ball candidate. Frustrating to start and redraft, but I like Chase in this trade a lot. So Chase side wins. Clarify my DK cash: Devontae Adams plus Njoku or Everett plus D Hop or Waddle. Okay. That changes things a lot. Man, probably Adams and Njoku now. Yeah, I like Njoku has a good matchup. Tampa Bay against the tight end position, bottom 5 in the league. They're allowing 13.9 fantasy points per game versus the tight end position. Njoku is expected to see more snaps this week as well. Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers in football still, even with Derek Carr throwing him the ball. I like the Adams and Njoku side. Thank you for re-asking that. I misunderstood the question earlier. Standard scoring, Aaron Jones or Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson. Aaron Jones, my running back 12. Jeff Wilson's probably going to be running back 6 or 7 by everything's finalized by tomorrow. If you missed it earlier, I talk about the reason why, which is Houston Texans are giving up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. They're to the running back position, I should say. 31 fantasy points a game to the running back position in the league, averaging 5.1 yards per carry against them. So Jeff Wilson is a smash play with Raheem Mostert out. Next question is Pittman or Rachaad White. I'm going to go with Pittman here again. Both have good matchups, but full-time receiver over the part-time running back. White expected to be more of a full-time running back this week, but still Gio's going to be involved, and I just don't fully trust him at this point. Pittman has the best matchup of all wide receivers in the league right now going against the Steelers. So Pittman over Rachaad White for me this week. Dulcich or Foster tight end this week. Ooh, I love Foster this week too. This is a good one. Let me pull up my rankings. Give me 1 second. So tight end, and I just want to put a little asterisk here. Tight end has not been my strength in my inside my rankings. It's the one position that I've actually done pretty poorly in. Every other position I've been in the top 10 all year in rankings, but I love Foster Moreau's matchup against Seattle. I mean, Seattle's giving up the second most fantasy points to the tight end position. He's seen like 80+% of snaps. I have Dulcich ahead of him right now, but I probably move Moreau ahead of him in the morning. So if I'm doing that, that probably means you should probably start Dulcich, but I'm going to say start Foster Moreau. It's against ECR right now. ECR has Dulcich ahead of him. Foster Moreau's 2 spots behind him in ECR, but I just like the matchup a lot. I'm going to go with Foster. Take it with a grain of salt, like I said, though. Zay Jones or Drake London. I'm going to go with London pretty easily here. We have no Kyle Pitts. That's really the only benefit because they don't throw the ball anyways, but Drake London should see a larger role inside this offense this week, outside of what he already had a large role, but even more so. Welcome to chat, Scott. PPR, need 2 flex, Rachaad White, Gibson. Let's see. Spacing here is throwing me off. Rachaad White, Gibson, Akers, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson. Holy crap, did you list your whole team? Let me try this again. Rachaad White, Gibson, Akers, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson, Traylon Burks, London, DPJ. You did list your whole team. There's 8 players here. I need 2 of these guys. Gibson's in for me. Devonta Smith is in for me. Rachaad White is the next man up, I think. I wouldn't argue if you wanted to start Rachaad White over Gibson, but I like the matchup. Washington gets Atlanta. Atlanta is bottom 4 in the league against the running back position, giving up 25.56 fantasy points a game. Rashad White also has a cake matchup. Cleveland, the second most fantasy points per week against the running back position, but Gibson, man, it's a tough one. I probably lean Gibson ever so slightly over Rashad White. In my rankings right now, I have them like at 20 and 22, like right there next to each other. So it really is a coin flip. They both have good matchups. We know what Gibson is, though, at this point. We know his role and his involvement. I typically lean that way, especially if you're getting close to playoffs and you kind of need to know. If you need to hit a home run, though, like go Rashad White. But if you need just consistent points and you're just looking for not middle of the road, because I think that, Gibson has potential to be, top 12, 13 running back in every given week. I lean Gibson here, but if you need to hit a home run, probably start Rashad White. Yep. See, somebody knows. That's what's up. Kyron Williams going to eat the rest of the season. I agree. He's going to be, I think, a difference maker down the stretch, especially as we approach the shootout weeks in high-stakes football, weeks 15, 16, 17. I have 61% ownership with Kyron Williams, so love Kyron Williams. Is Josh Jacobs playing? Johannes, I don't think so. I think there's no reason for them to throw him out there, quite frankly, although they were running him in the ground because he's not going to re-sign with them next year probably, but I'm going to lean with a no, but if he is out there, you can't trust him. So I wouldn't play him. I'd look at other options on your roster. Just calf injuries are scary with running backs, and so you risk re-injury at any given moment. It's going to reduce his explosiveness as well, his cutability. I'm not going to trust Josh Jacobs this week. We already know he's not the fastest player. He's not the most explosive player to begin with. Add in the injury, and it's not a recipe for success. He's been kind of very dependent on those 20-plus touches, 25, 26, 27 touches a week. I would not trust him this week. Start one, Lat Murray, Juju, Pacheco, Hollywood, or DJ Moore. These are all good options. All great options. Probably Juju, best offense. And you look at what he was doing prior to that big hit and going out with that concussion. Juju's been really good. I mean, really good. You look at, I'll pull up PPR scoring, for instance. So PPR scoring prior to the concussion that he faced in Week 10 versus Jacksonville, he was wide receiver 7 in Week 6, wide receiver 4 in Week 7, wide receiver 8 in Week 9. They had a bye in Week 8. During that stretch, he had 113 yards, 124 yards, 88 yards. 10 targets, 12 targets, 8 targets, 5 targets. He's just heavily involved. We know Hardman's out. There's no Tony this week, so I still think Juju's going to slide into a large role, even if the matchup is not necessarily game script positive for him. Game script probably leans more Pacheco side, but I just don't fully trust Pacheco. Pacheco would be last in this situation for me. So for me, in order, it's going to be Juju, Hollywood, Lat Murray, DJ Moore, Pacheco in that order. Jacob status, just talked about this, but yeah, I'm not playing him this week, even if he is active. It might bite me, but I'm going to say I don't trust the calf injuries and late additions to the injury reports ever. And I don't think you need to pick up Zamira or Abdullah if you block the opponent. I would actually leave them on there so they pick them up, because they're going to be disappointed if they start either one of those guys. So bait them, leave them out there. And you're welcome. Yep, that's what we're here for. Every Saturday night, midnight Eastern, I'm here to answer those questions for you. I'll do it through playoffs as well for DFS lineups. Dolchich or Juwan Johnson? I'm going to go Dolchich here. Juwan Johnson is actually one of my sits inside the article posted in the chat again. Very touchdown dependent. Niners have only given up, though, 1 touchdown on the season all year. They're the 4th most formidable versus tight end position. They're only giving up 8.6 fantasy points a week to opposing tight ends. I think Juwan Johnson's 3-touchdown game streak comes to an end, and he does not get a 4th here versus the Niners. So that's my prediction. If I could take it under on touchdowns on gambling, I would smash that line right now. Brian, welcome to the podcast. I got a few tough ones this week. Answer as many as you want. Wide receiver start 1, half PPR. Demarcus Robinson, Julio, Chris Moore. Oh, Jesus Christ. Bottom of the barrel here. Probably Julio. Slight lean over Demarcus Robinson. I like Demarcus Robinson second in that group. And then Josh Jacobs or ETN, very easily ETN in the running back slot. So ETN and Julio for me. Got Field, but need rest of season pick. Kirk Cousins or Tannehill or Heineke. Cousins for me, and then Heineke. Just better talent with better offense for Cousins. Heineke's been a really good player. Tannehill doesn't have anyone to throw to outside of his rookie who's back. So they're just going to run the ball. They're a run first team. They're not a pass first team. I don't trust Tannehill. Full PPR, Deontay Johnson, Pacheco, or Foreman. Foreman's odd man out here easily. So Pacheco or Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson's been trash. He really has. He's been so bad. And they're facing the Colts, who are the best against the wide receiver position. I'm probably starting Pacheco here, and I know it goes against everything I just said about starting a full-time wide receiver over a part-time running back, but Deontay Johnson has not been good. Deontay Johnson is my wide receiver 39 this week in my rankings. It's harder to put him lower than that, but just for perspective in PPR leagues, like let me read you his last finishes. So he has not finished better than wide receiver 22 all season. Last week, week 11, he was wide receiver 55. Week 10, wide receiver 40. They had a bye week 9. Week 8, wide receiver 50. Week 7, wide receiver 44. Week 6, wide receiver 43. Week 5, wide receiver 36. Week 4, wide receiver 74. Week 3 is his best week, wide receiver 22. Week 2, wide receiver 28. Week 1, wide receiver 32. Again, inside of my start 'em sit 'em last week, Deontay Johnson led that, was the wide receiver 1 I said to sit last week, and he finished as wide receiver 55. If I could put his name in there, I would just literally copy and paste because it'd be the same argument. He did not break the streak. I just don't like him this year. It's been hard to trust him. The offense hasn't been as good. He's not getting just the targets that he got last year with Ben Roethlisberger. So it's very hard for me to start Deontay Johnson in leagues right now. As crazy as that sounds, it's hard to start him. ETN Baltimore matchup does not shake you off. ETN, no, it does not. No, ETN to me is because he's a pass catching down back as well as a 1-2 back. So he's game script proof in that aspect, because if they get behind, he's still going to catch the ball. If they get ahead, he's still going to run the ball. Baltimore, fairly tough against the run, but they're not, like the best. They're top 8, but they're still beatable. They've still given up 6 rushing touchdowns on the season. So I do expect them to be involved both I expect him to be involved in the air and on the ground. So ETN does not scare me, especially, like I said, Jacobs is out. So I think that was your other option. Or not out, I should say, but he's going to be limited at best. Next question we have is sit 1. Well, Amon-Ra already played. I think that's who that is, St. Brown. So he already played. Hoped you had him in your lineup because he should have been your lineup. But Curtis Samuel, Devonta Smith, Marquise Brown, Godwin, and Pickens. I'm sitting Pickens here. If sitting 1, that's easy. Pickens sits. If Fields doesn't start, should I start Matt Ryan? Absolutely start Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is my quarterback 1 inside the start 'em sit 'em article. He's a top 12 quarterback this week in my rankings. I'm like +6 versus ECR. Matt Ryan, love the matchup. It should be pretty cake. So Matt Ryan, inside the article, I talk about his Jekyll and Hyde season. He's been kind of a tale of two sides. He's been great, horrible, great, horrible. The consistent thing that we know is he's been good at home and he's been good versus bad teams. This is best of both worlds because he's at home versus a bad team. So look no further than Matt Ryan in your streaming opportunities at quarterback. It should be a pretty cake matchup, especially versus Sam Darnold. Mike White is intriguing, but Matt Ryan has a really good matchup. Looks like we're nearing the end. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. PPR, Josh Jacobs, Josh Palmer. Everything I just said about Josh Jacobs before, apply it here. I'm starting Palmer. Next question is, I know it sounds crazy, but I want to start Juju over Olave, Pittman, and Sutton. It's not crazy. It's really not. Definitely over Sutton. Juju and Olave are almost back-to-back in my rankings. I have Pittman ahead of all of them, but I understand the thought process here. I mean, I just listed off Juju's finishes. I mean, he had 3 top 10 finishes, and they're short on wide receivers. So I don't think you're crazy. If you're leaning that way, go for it. I'm not gonna sit here and debate it and tell you that you shouldn't, because the Rams are beat up. The Rams are also a bottom 8 team versus wide receiver position. The Chiefs are actually, out wide receivers, so it makes a lot of sense, quite frankly, and I don't think you're crazy. So I see a scenario where Juju is a top 10 receiver this week. I see a scenario, though, where Olave is a top 10 receiver this week. I also see a scenario where Michael Pittman's a top 10 receiver this week. So you have all good options here. I would ask, though, who you're starting over these guys, because I don't know who you'd be starting over Juju, Olave, and Pittman. Like, these guys should be in your lineups, but if it's a short, 10-team league and you have short benches and short starting rosters, it makes sense. But if you can just follow up down in the chat a little further down, Rumpy Pumpy, let me know who would be starting over Pittman and Sutton. That's who I'm most curious about, because quite frankly, all 3 of these guys should be in your lineup. Drop Gus the bus to pick up Kyron or Josh Kelly the rest of the season. I would drop Gus the bus for Kyron. I mean, that's probably against consensus. Most people are going to tell you not to do it, that I'm crazy. But you have Drake, who's still involved. You have Dobbins, who's going to be coming back. Kyron Williams is only going to be competing now versus Cam Akers, and Kyron Williams has been out snapping Cam Akers. Cam Akers just came out of the doghouse. Kyron Williams was drafted by this team as well. Excellent pass catcher out of college. He ran a really slow 40 at a pro day. Stock just massively dropped in the draft. Ended up on the Rams. So I like Kyron Williams a lot. I mean, a lot. I think he looked dynamic the last 2 weeks. So Kyron Williams, to me, I'd pick up, drop Gus easily, quite frankly. Might be alone on this island, but I'm going to plant my flag on this one. Which defense is best from weeks 15 through 17? Let me pull up my cheat sheet over here with my matchups. So Washington gets Giants, Niners, and Browns. Tennessee gets Chargers, Houston, and Cowboys. That's a tough one. Tampa Bay gets Bengals, Cardinals, and Panthers. And then Seattle gets 49ers, Chiefs, and Jets. So Seattle's out, okay? So it's probably between Washington and Tennessee. Washington, Giants, Niners, Browns. I'm probably going to lean Washington. I mean, they've been pretty nasty on defense lately too. Tennessee's good against the run, but they suck versus the tight end. They also suck versus the wide receiver. I'm gonna lean Washington here. Although I'm not gonna argue if you want to do Tampa Bay, but Bengals and Cardinals are a little tough, I think. So I'm gonna lean Washington, Giants, Niners, and Browns, because as much as I like the Niners, I mean, we've seen them get shut down at times. It's going to be a lot tougher with the explosive playmakers they have now there, with Debo and Christian McCaffrey and Kittle and Ayuk. Just it's a slurry of messes there. But Washington's still, I think, the best defense of that group for the shootout schedules. That's right. Thank you, Giselle. Everyone, hit the like button for me. Helps the algorithm. Helps the channel a lot. Appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. If you have not done so, please subscribe. I go live like this every Saturday, answer all your start set questions. I also go live on Thursdays with Jody. We did it this week because of Thanksgiving, and then we'll do it through playoffs as well. Mahalo. Okay, we got a couple more left in here. Justin Watson, DeAndre Carter, or Elijah Moore. Oh man, not great options. Let me pull up my rankings. I think off just top of my head, I think I have Watson the highest. But let me pull it up. Watson, I haven't adjusted him yet, actually. So he's probably going to be in that wide receiver 53 range. Who are the other options? I lost my screen. 1 second. The other options were DeAndre Carter or Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is more interesting with Darnold again. Elijah Moore is going to probably be in that 60 range. I probably lean DeAndre Carter is going to be even lower. So I probably lean Justin Watson here. Just mentioned them being out receivers. So let's go ahead and go this route. And if they get ahead, they'll probably leave him in because they don't have to worry about him versus Juju or Travis Kelce or something like that. So let's go Justin Watson. Tight end PPR, Foster and Njoku, Gesicki. Gesicki's easy one out of here. It's either Foster or Njoku. I mentioned the matchup. I love the matchup that Foster Moreau has against Seattle this week, they're giving up the second most points to the tight end position, but David Njoku is the superior talent facing off against Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay is bottom 5. I'm going to go with Njoku here with talent and matchup, even though the matchup's better for Foster Moreau, the talent is just far superior with David Njoku. So David Njoku. Is Higby playing tomorrow? I'm leaning towards no. I haven't seen an official word yet. Shefty bombs, I don't think they've come out yet. Let me just verify real quick on Twitter. Nope, nothing yet. So I'm going to lean towards no. And if he is playing, he's going to be severely limited. And then on top of it, he's got an inexperienced quarterback at play. You probably have better options anyways. So I would say look elsewhere. If you have somebody, like, I don't know what kind of league you're in, but you'd be surprised. There's people out. I saw Foster Moreau on a waiver wire the other day, so I'd look that way. I mean, you can look at, maybe Everett was dropped because he was out last week, so maybe look that way as well. But I'd probably look elsewhere than Higby this week. Would you start P. Ryan or Rachaad White? I was hoping I'd get this question tonight. Thank you. Rachaad White. And it breaks down to matchup, and we talked about it earlier. It's the second worst run defense in the league. They're giving up 29.92 fantasy points in the league. Plus P. Ryan, to me, P. Ryan, okay, he got lucky with the 3 touchdowns. It's not going to happen again, in my opinion. So he was also one of the lead running backs in my Sit-'em article this week. I know he got the 3 touchdowns last week. I don't expect it to happen again. But the Titans are the 3rd ranked run defense in the league and number 2 EPA run defense. So it's a very tough matchup for P. Ryan. Very tough versus a very easy matchup for Rachaad White. I saw a lot of people asking this question earlier. I was hoping it'd be asked here so we could just show you the importance of matchups. I like Rachaad White here, although I think I said earlier I have about 5 spots separate, but P. Ryan for me is going to be a little bit lower. So start Rachaad White. Pick 2 wide receivers and 2 flex, half PPR. Higgins, Olave, Mike Evans. Those are in. Oh, man, you got really good options here. Higgins, Olave, Mike Evans, Connor, Keenan Allen, McLaurin. Okay. Oh, geez. These are really good options. These are tough. I mean, Raiders are bottom 3 against the run. They're short on running wide receivers, so they're probably going to run the ball a little bit more. But Connor just isn't. I mean, oh man, he's going to see a lot of snaps too. McLaurin, though, I have so much McLaurin in DFS this week. I mean, Atlanta's the second. They're facing Atlanta. Atlanta is the second worst against the wide receiver position, only behind Pittsburgh, and it's only by 1 fantasy point. So McLaurin is in for me. I think I'm high on McLaurin this week. Yeah, I have McLaurin at wide receiver 7. I have him ahead of CeeDee Lamb this week. So McLaurin's in for me. That's 1 in. How many do I got to start here? So 4 out of these guys I can start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 guys I have to sit to. I'm sitting Keenan Allen. Okay, I'll get that out of the way. He's coming off injury. He's not going to be playing full snaps. So he's going to be playing close to full snaps, but he's not going to be full snaps. Higgins is definitely in against Tennessee. Tennessee is the 3rd worst defense against the wide receiver position, and Chase was ruled out. So let's go. Higgins is in for sure. McLaurin's in for sure. So now it comes down to Mike Evans and Olave are wide receiver 17, 18 back-to-back in my rankings. Or Connor, and Connor is in my rankings. Let's see. Connor's, I think, I have his running back 15. Man, I wish I would have moved Pollard to 14. I knew I should have moved him earlier. Connor gets the Chargers. Chargers are bottom 4 against the running back position. It's a tough one. This is a flip a coin option, but I mean they're all pretty good matchups. I'm gonna go the receivers here though. I'm gonna go McLaurin, Higgins, Olave, Mike Evans. I'm gonna sit Connor and Keenan Allen. If you have a lean Connor over one of Olave or Mike Evans, I'd say go for it, but I prefer those 4 receivers. I'd sit Connor and Keenan Allen. Those are really good options though. So some of those are coin flips, quite frankly. You're welcome, Colt. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Think I might be low on White this week, Billy. You're high on Kyron in general, but we will see. You are the best in the industry. Thank you very much. Yep, I'm lower than White than the average Joe, but I saw some people have him as like running back 10. I think that's way too high. And when you think about, I just kind of want to like talk about why I have him here. So first and foremost, there's not a single buy this week. So if you're last week or the weeks before where there's 6 teams on buy, it's a lot easier to finish inside the top 15. But now you have, I mean, let me just list you like 15 running backs here. Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Jeff Wilson, Dalvin Cook, Barkley, Etienne, Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb, Connor, David Montgomery. Like, that's already 16. I haven't even said Alvin Kamara. I haven't even said Damon Pierce. I haven't said, Najee Harris, who's going to see 90+% of snaps. We're already getting close to running back 20. Where do we slide him in? I get the matchup's really good. That being said, he's still a rookie in a Tom Brady offense. There's still question marks. I mean, he's definitely looked explosive. He's the better back over Fournette. That's without question, in my opinion. So I'm very happy he's given this opportunity. But in a full slate of games with no buys, it's hard to get him up that high. That's all. That's my only argument against it. Thank you for tuning in. Good luck in your matchups this week. I'm starting Etienne, JT Evans, one of my wide receivers I mentioned. One of the wide receivers I mentioned, Mark Andrews, Etienne, JT Evans, one of the wide receivers I mentioned. Mark Andrews, not a receiver. Rashad White. Oh, you're talking about your flex. I put Andrews in at flex if I'm understanding that question right. Yeah, Mark Andrews over Rashad White if I'm reading that right. Nice. You got Kyron everywhere. Love to see it. Yeah, I'm 61% ownership. Thank you for tuning in, Roy. And that was someone answering the question. And you are welcome, Johannes. And good luck in your matchup this week as well. Last 2 questions, looks like. Full PPR, bench 1, Etienne, Jeff Wilson, or Rashad White. I'm benching Rashad White. And you have Christian McCaffrey, Etienne, Jeff Wilson. Perfect. Yeah, those are – so Etienne, Jeff Wilson, and CMC are 3 of my top 10 running backs. So definitely insert those 3. And that is it, folks. That's the last question. We did it. Good luck in your matchups tomorrow. Hope the advice worked. And if they didn't, feel free to tag me on Discord. We can laugh at my bad decisions if I got them wrong. We definitely like to do that. So we like to poke fun. If I get them right, make sure to tag me on Twitter. Say thank you. I'd love to hear it. If you got them wrong, reach out to me on Discord. Have a good night, guys. Take care.